You got one life, for crying out loud. You might as well just give it all you got.
The Deej, Dan Jordan.
Your daily dose of reality. Your daily dose of the Deej.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I need my daily dose of the Deej.
I make the news. I don't watch the news. I'm a leader.
The sales energizer, Dan Jordan.
Listen, don't worry how to sell, baby. Worry about why people buy. And it's fun.
You don't need a 5-hour energy. All you need is the sales energizer.
Just when I think it's not going to be as fun as the one before, each one gets successfully better. What's the word I'm looking for? What's it going to take to get you into this car today, huh?
And now, please welcome the sales energizer, Dan Jordan.
I don't care who you are. If your arms aren't raised right now, I don't know if they ever will.
Why? So that was the surprise. You made it better.
Hey, we've got to rise to the occasion. The show's getting. Right. I mean, our guest today. I mean, like we've got to paint the walls in here purple and white stripes. I mean, we've got some great guests lined up.
Better than it was. Better, stronger, faster. Where's that from? Do you remember?
$6 Million Man, Lee Majors.
Steve Austin, a man barely alive.
That's right.
So that's funny. So Steve Austin was the character, but you remembered the actor.
Lee Majors.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I had the big $6 Million Man action figure.
Did you have the Farrah Fawcett poster?
I mean, come on. Come on. I think everybody.
Oh, my God.
So those of you who are tuning in, this is Dan Jordan live, and we want to give a special shout out because we are being broadcast on LinkedIn thanks to our good buddy, Jim Fuse over at Fusion Marketing for all your social media and marketing needs, for allowing us to basically hijack his LinkedIn channel. So if you've tuned in for Jim Fuse, I'm sorry, he won't be here today. You're going to have something else. Have you ever seen the movie?
A major disappointment.
That is incorrect. Yeah. Have you ever seen the movie Airheads by chance? Okay, so really quickly, this was a movie that Adam Sandler was in. Of course, this was before Adam Sandler. It was the movie entrepreneur mogul that he now is, and he was just an actor. But this movie Airheads was about this band. This hard rock band that wanted to get their demo played on a radio station. And so what they did is they hijacked this radio station. They took over the radio station with squirt guns in order to have their song played. This is back when radio stations were like a bigger deal than they are now, for sure. And so they hijacked. So I feel like we're the band taking over Jim Fuse and Fusion Marketing's LinkedIn channel. So thank you, Jim, and make sure you guys go over to see Jim Fuse on LinkedIn and Fusion Marketing as well.
He really does.
Shout out to him.
It's funny that you said squirt guns, because there's two things you get. You could say squirt guns or water pistols. We always said water pistols, but you said squirt guns.
There were squirt guns. I grew up in Detroit. There were squirt guns.
In New Jersey, water pistols.
Okay.
Yeah, that was in my house. There was a rule: you can get any gun you wanted, but it needed to be plastic enough that it didn't look like a real gun. Like, that was the thing. Because every once in a while they had these real, guns that looked like real guns, and they were water pistols. I wasn't allowed to get those.
Okay.
So now you got a little extra stuff that nonsensical information that you know about me.
Exactly.
But by the way, in sales, that's what endears you to customers. A lot of people get into sales and they try to work all different angles in the manipulation of how to get in and win somebody over. The answer is be a little vulnerable. Let them know something stupid about yourself. I used to coach this. I can't believe I used to coach women in sales to, when they went to the bathroom, attach a little toilet paper to their heels. And so people will, when you walk out of the bathroom and you step on toilet paper and attach. So I go, do it on purpose, walk out. Definitely somebody's going to walk up to you and say, hey, you got toilet paper on your heels. Actually, a guy can use it too. But especially because I know you look good in high heels, and maybe it's fashionable now.
I appreciate that, man. You're always great with compliments. It makes me feel.
The world of sales has changed so much, and so there's new things that you can do. And sometimes I had one. Dominic Karuba says I had one.
I don't know.
What kind of
high heels? Maybe a pair of high heels.
Oh, there we go. Code as he talks. But things have changed. So, which is why it was very important for me on this DJ Live to get an old school sales guy on who could tell us how things used to be and how they were able to change for today. And I'm talking, this guy was, there at the beginning when they used to have like good conventions with, farm animals and drinking and hookers and the whole thing. And so he knows the whole game. And so it's not the same anymore. So why don't you bring him on?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome the legend that is Mr. Jeff Sheehan. What's up, Jeff? How are you, sir?
I don't know about legend. That's really not a good answer.
Oh, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I know you are too humble. You are too humble,
no,
sir.
Absolutely not. No. Dan's a legend. I'm his bag carrier. Okay?
So Jeff, let me ask, because you've done something that other people kind of dream of, which is have enough of following that it actually makes a difference in your life. A lot of times we try to, there's things about leaders, and there's two ways to be a leader. You can there's one thing that you need to be a leader, and that's a follower. And there's a couple ways to get those followers. One is to force it through whatever means you can, but another way is to attract it. And you've managed to attract hundreds of thousands of followers on your Twitter feed. And how the heck did you do that?
Well, quite honestly, Dan, you've known me now for a decade. It's just being in the right place at the right time, and just trying to build something so that 10 years ago plus, I wanted to write some books and wanted to have a distribution channel. So I made a concerted effort starting over 10 years ago on Twitter to build a following so I could sell books. And it just came naturally to me. I was in the right place at the right time in building that network. At that time, there was a tool available that would allow you to add followers of followers. So I used that tool. I could add up, I think it was like 300 a day or something like that. So it made it quite easy. And also the fact is there weren't as many people on it then. So you could actually attract people. It's much more difficult now to attract new followers, quite honestly. But it's in the right place at the right time and just worked my tail off, quite honestly. Not one follower. Everything was done organically. And just by engaging with people and tweeting and, getting up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning and just starting to follow people, tweeting, setting up schedules for the day. I've been a relentless tweeter for years now.
You're like Trump. You and Donald Trump are like the same thing.
No. Please don't.
You see, I mean,
okay.
He probably learned from you.
I could tell you one thing.
We have only you to thank.
I'm very careful
for Donald Trump's tweeting prowess. But you said something that was you said that was about 10 years ago, you said, right?
Correct.
Yeah, well, listen, you said something about being in the right place at the right time. Well, heck, I was there at the same time. It's not just being in the right place at the right time. It's being in the right place at the right time and then doing something.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, I worked my tail off with regard to tweeting things, with engaging with people, and just supporting people and promoting their, what are they trying to do? What can I do to possibly help them? And also just start connecting with people and humanizing the whole process, not being a robot, not being a machine, and just try to connect with people as much as possible.
Right. And that's what I've noticed. I mean, I think you talked about gaining all of those followers. And of course, a lot of people can do that and they can kind of like hack a system or do whatever, but it's one thing to get all of those and then you kept them. And so it wasn't just about you just getting 300, 350,000, however many Twitter followers, and then just look at the number necessarily, and they're just a bunch of bots or whatever. You actually, you're engaging with people on Twitter, and a great follow, by the way. And so it's really just, you make it a very personal thing, because I think a lot of people are a little afraid of Twitter because number one, they don't understand it, and they feel like it's just like another language. It's like learning Mandarin, or how do I utilize this properly for my business, which is what I wanted to ask you. Do you have like maybe some examples? I know maybe not necessarily in your business, but people you've spoken to, and I know you have hundreds of followers on Twitter, people that you've spoken to in business where they've been able to utilize Twitter in a way that drove more revenue for their business.
Well, just how do you do it? How do you do it? How do you get more business from Twitter?
By creating relationships with people, just like any of these other social media channels.
Mm-hmm.
It can be there's so much fluff out there. It's all about engagement, connectivity with people, and reaching out using Twitter, and then going over to LinkedIn, then to emails, then to phone calls, then to face-to-face meetings if possible. And I've had a number of meetings with people that I've met originally through Twitter that have created opportunities for me, and also opportunities to helping them regarding what they're actually doing. And these are all over the world. For instance, just over the last couple of weeks or 3 weeks, and I talked about this on Twitter Smarter last week when I was a guest, is met this young guy, early 30s, in Gambia in West Africa, poor as dirt, okay? So what happened is I saw what he was tweeting about, and I engaged with him. Then we started talking, and he gave me his WhatsApp phone number. So I called him. He gave me a virtual tour of his village. Very humbling. Actually, well water. They have no means of transportation. They're scrambling for food right now. Very, very poor area. So I developed a relationship with him, talked about it on Twitter Smarter, and subsequent to that, he's had a GoFundMe campaign. I contribute a little bit to it, and some others have as well as a result of my activities. But you're making a difference in the world for someone, and this is a result of the relationship on Twitter. Met another guy one time, this goes back 9 years ago. His name is Rithi Tull, I'll never forget this. And so my son got married in Cambodia, and we went over there, and next thing you know, I had breakfast with the guy. This was 8 years ago, and developed a solid relationship with him. And found out at that time he's one of the leading entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs in all of Asia. I would never have known that until making that connection on Twitter and working with him, and sitting down with him and learning more about him.
Right.
So these are things that can happen. You can help people. You can develop relationships that might lead to new opportunities. It's great from a nonprofit perspective, philanthropic, and trying to advance causes or trying to help people out throughout the world. But you have to do it genuine. You have to really be the honest and authentic regarding it. I think there's so much out there that's just, it's like I said before, fluff, and they're not the real deal.
Well, you got. Speaking of fluff, I hear this word all the time, and you said it too. Engagement. What does that mean? Aside from getting married, what does it mean? Engage. People talk engagement. I mean, what do you say to not sound like a stalker?
Oh, okay. Let's.
Because one thing, it's one thing, just to be friends with somebody. I mean, I appreciate all the good work you're doing, but you just say, I met a guy who's poor as dirt. And, when I'm talking to business people all day, I'm not saying, hey, I got an idea for you. Why don't we go meet people that are poor? I mean, there's three things you need in order to make a sale. You need someone who's interested. You need someone who can make a decision, and you need someone who has money. This guy doesn't fit the bill.
No, but that's just one part of the equation. What I do, or what I try to do.
So how do you engage with people to start a business relationship?
Very, very easily. I mean, like in my particular case, if people reach out to me quite frequently to represent them in their products, I turn most of them down. I am engaged with a few companies, one being Nimble, which I've had a relationship for years as a brand ambassador, have been a brand ambassador and influencer for IBM as a result of my Twitter activity and some other things that I've done. Not as frequently now as it was 5.5 years ago when IBM had a different business model in the whole digital arena. But still, you can develop those relationships with Twitter, with these people. And again, some of them are tenuous, some of them are the real deal. You just have to know which ones to gravitate towards, or which people to really develop relationships with. But I have had countless opportunities, most of them which I have declined because of the fact that you have limited bandwidth and you can't be all things to all people. And at this
that's
juncture
cool.
in my life, I just very selective. Most of the stuff I do is in the career ministry area or other philanthropic endeavors that, like you, Dan, in some respects.
Well, I love how you, Jeff, you went towards Twitter as what can I do to help people? It was more of it was more like how can I give as opposed to what can I get for myself out of Twitter. And I think a lot of people, and we spoke to someone last week on the show, Vanessa, who's also big in social media, and it's always about that. It's always about having the heart and showing the heart, and not necessarily being there to try to get everyone's money. I think that, that's going about it the right way at the onset. And I think that speaks to what you just said there. And Dan as well, is I know you guys do a lot for career seekers. And in these times, obviously, there's a lot more people seeking careers than there were 3 or 4 months ago, of course. And so if you would, I'd love to hear from you and maybe some impacts that you've made, because I know for years, and I think that's how you and Dan met, and that's how Dan and I met, was through RUMC and that career and job seeking ministry. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that and working with people and helping in their careers.
Well, the first time I met Dan actually he was a speaker at St. Anne's, or at the career ministry there,
right,
where I was a speaker for a number of years as well. So that was our first engagement there. And then both of us are on the faculty, I guess you'd call it, for RUMC, and helping fellow job seekers now for the largest career ministry organization in the United States. And it's very humbling, very worthwhile program that they have there. I think I gave a talk last Monday, virtual talk. I think I had 118 people on my talk, but there are some of the meetings, they can have 300 people when they're used to do the live ones up until 3.5 months ago. So when I first started out, let me be very honest and forthright, is Please. My original intent in using this Twitter, I said, was not so much from an altruistic perspective, but it was to generate potential connections and leads for book sales. But then it morphed into a philanthropic endeavor when I saw the what could be done with it to help other people. And it just became, I really got enamored with it. Mm-hmm. And I learned from people such as Bob Satarian, and who Dan knows as well, Bob Z.
Bob. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And
shout out to Bob Z.
Yeah, Bob Z. He had a heart attack. He's doing all right now, huh?
Oh, that was 2 years ago, Dan.
Well, listen, 2 years ago, still a heart attack.
Oh yeah, no, he's doing fine.
We've got our friend Doug Lehman chiming in. What's up in layman's terms? So just and I know we all know Doug, great guy, and Doug's going to be on next week's show. So that's a little preemptive promotion there.
He does video stuff for people. It's really cool. If you'd like do a video on your phone or something, send it to Doug Lehman. He'll hook you up. He'll make it all snazzy and fast and looking good. And he'll do it in layman's terms.
That's
so we all can understand.
Right. So if anybody that's out there, and I know we have a bunch of new folks thanks to Fusion Marketing from LinkedIn. If you've got any questions, comments, and you want to hurl any insults at Dan, but any questions and comments for Mr. Sheehan, please hit us up in the chat, and we'll be sure to do that. So sorry to take us off track.
Well,
guys.
hey, no problem at all. Let me ask you, what did you when you were in the sales world? What were you doing when you were going great guns back in the 30s?
I started out, and yesterday I was on it. Actually, it was a Facebook Live with Kathy Ireland.
Oh,
okay. Who I'm connecting on LinkedIn and Twitter with, okay? And so she had a Facebook Live, and she was on for a half an hour. One of the companies she represents is American Family Insurance. So she was on there talking about her background and what I wouldn't say rags to riches, but what she's done, and just a phenomenal career. So she started out as a paper girl, believe it or not, and I was a paper boy, along with several other people, Warren Buffett being one of them. So it's kind of a school of entrepreneurs. Dan, I don't know if you were a paper boy, But
No, a lot. You know,
really,
a lot of times when I think of Warren Buffett and Kathy Ireland, your name generally comes to mind.
Sure.
I mean, it's like the same,
and delivering papers.
You're like the same thing.
Yeah,
No, but I was a paper boy back in the time when you used to have to deliver paper, and then you had to go back during the week and collect. Remember, you had to collect.
correct. Yes,
Yeah, you had to do that
absolutely.
whole, and you had to put the inserts in.
Yes, it was tough up in Boston because you had the bad weather there and blowing snowstorms and
Oh,
everything.
yeah. So you're
still
like a
deliver the
perpetual complainer. Oh, that was tough. Okay. Hey, but listen, tough guy. So, when you got into the real sales world, did you work for IBM?
No, I sold to IBM.
You
I
sold
sold
what?
to IBM. I sold electronic components. I also sold my first sales job in the real world, other than the paperboy and doing some other things, was working for a company called Moisture Systems. They made analytical moisture analyzers that measured the moisture content of various products out there, and sold those to companies like Weyerhaeuser, Dow Chemical, DuPont, Exxon.
And how did you get into those companies? I mean, how did you?
I met that guy. Actually, I was on the beach in St. Thomas, and we were talking, and he asked me what I did. I told him I worked for a bank in Boston. However, I had been there for 2 years, and I wanted to move on. I wanted to get into high-tech marketing and sales.
No, let's do that. I don't care about how you got the sales job. I want to know how you got the account with Dow Chemical and IBM and all these big shot guys. How did you prospect and get out there? Teach the people something, Jeff Sheehan.
Your favorite method, cold calling, dude.
Boom.
Yes,
all right.
Yes. Cold calling.
It took, how long have we been on the line here? 20 minutes?
23.
It took 20 minutes for you to say the magic word.
Cold calling. I would go through, actually, there was, for instance, one of the industries, verticals we're in, was the pulp and paper industry. So at that time, there's a directory called the Pulp and Paper Industry Directory. I would go through that, and I would just contact all the pulp and paper manufacturers throughout the U.S., Canada, and Mexico, and what have you. I'd pick up the phone and call them, and I'd ask them what they were doing to measure the moisture content in their products. And I said, we had a solution for that. It was $7,000 a pop for the instruments.
Wow.
But the thing is, they had a problem because of the fact that you have to measure the moisture content in various products because of the fact that if you don't, the product can disintegrate. But more importantly, you waste all kinds of energy because you have to use these things called dryers to dry paper and other products. You put them through a dryer. And what our device would do would measure the moisture content on the outside of the dryer on the production line, and then it would have a closed loop back into just
Jeff
the
Sheehan,
temperatures of the dryer.
Stop
Yes.
selling me moisture things. I want to know about how you sell them. I don't care about the product.
I wonder if you could help me.
I've never been in a conversation where I've heard the word moisture as much as I've heard it today. You must have said moisture 75 times. Hey, listen, moisture. Okay, so, but that was with that was at the pulp and paper companies. What about like IBM? Right. Do they need moisture stuff? So your pitch was the same? No. So, hello? Hey,
no. So the pitch was, I went from the end of a company called Foxborough, same business, process control instrumentation. Then I decided I wanted to move here to Atlanta. So I get a job with Murata Electronics, selling electronic components. So that led to selling electronic components and marketing them to Apple, Hewlett-Packard, Intel, IBM, AT&T, you name it, the household.
And how did you get into those companies?
Cold calling.
Boom.
There it is.
In a lot of cases, but working through our sales reps and distributors and what have you. But it was they use that, using sales leads and providing those to the sales reps and to the distributors.
Isn't that cool? So you can meet enough strangers out there and talk about moisture and components and get customers. It's the craziest thing, because you said something early on that a lot of people missed. You said they had a problem. That's the only reason why they talk to you, because they had a problem. So you listeners out there who are just looking around, that how do I sell my product? Find out what problem they have and see if you have a solution. And then you don't sell the product, you sell the solution. That's simple. Hey, I got something that's going to save you money so you don't have to use these expensive dryers. How's that sound?
Absolutely.
And boom, and go right in. And in cold calling, did you ever die? I mean, was there one time that I can never go to that place because I might die? Did you ever die?
I almost did, Dan.
Okay, good. Oh, tell me that story. Now there's a story.
Well, that story was when I became a stockbroker for a year. Okay.
For 1 year.
Yeah, 1 year. Okay, I had to get out. It was too unethical. What was the company was, so I had to get out of it. But when I first went in there, I thought I was going to have all kinds of sales leads presented to me. And what happened is the manager of the office came by. I said, "Where are my sales leads? Don't I get any sales leads?" He said, here's your sales leads. It was a telephone book. So what I had to do. Cool. Oh yeah, it wasn't cool.
Now, for those of you who were born after 1985, a telephone book was a book. It was yellow, and you would open it up, and there'd be all sorts of numbers in it and all that stuff, and you would call them, and you would start with the A, and then if you were really smart, you would start with the Z's because you thought that everybody else was starting with the A's. Fact of the matter is, everybody was making about 5 calls, and then they shut the book anyway, so it didn't matter.
Right, correct. So what happened is the first day on the job, he handed me the book. This is where you're going to make a living. I said, what? I almost died, okay?
Yeah. Isn't that funny? People say that. I almost died. Let me tell you something, Jeff Sheehan. You didn't come close to dying. You were going to tell me a good story where you almost died. I was expecting bullets and, finally getting back to the hookers. But I was expecting all that stuff. But instead,
well, you had to run to the men's room. I swear to God, I was so scared. You expect me to get on the phone and ask people for money out of their own wallets and that I don't know. I thought I had a warm lead for. They said, "Yep, that's the whole deal." So I ran to the restroom and I said, "Can I do this?" I was scared to death, but I finally got comfortable doing it, and I opened up 247 accounts that you're in the business. But like I said, I had to get out of it because it was too unethical what they were doing, and I couldn't go to work at Merrill or E.F. Hutton or one of the other firms because you had to start all over again. So I went back to the Marauders ad agency and worked there for many years for the ad agency, and then back to Marauder itself for well over 20 years. But I didn't die. I kept moving forward. And if you know how to cold call and become comfortable with it, you can do almost anything. The world's your oyster. That's right. And they talk about social selling, and we're talking about the future and that. Okay, social selling is the future. But if you stink at selling, if you don't have the wherewithal and the guts, you're not going to be that great a salesperson using these social selling tools.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So social selling is just, it's an introduction that people get to know you and all that. But eventually, for that engagement thing that you were talking about, you got to be able to present yourself in terms of their solution rather than their.
Without question. And people don't realize that. If you don't have the sales training and that, you don't have the initiative, the drive, and you will not succeed. Chris, you had a point?
Sales training. Dan knows something about sales training a little bit.
Yeah, you guys got to get on to
well, you and your partner, Crispin Cruz, do sales training for a company called Sales Arbiter, and I just so happen to have Crispin waiting backstage.
Oh,
he would love to join with Jeff. Jeff, are you okay with that?
Sure.
Okay. Do you know Crispin?
No, I don't believe it.
Oh, you're in for a treat. This man.
Look at him. And he's in his car, hanging out.
Jeff, meet Crispin. Cool. Crispin,
golf shirt.
Hello, gentlemen. Hello. Yeah. I've been listening intently to all of these gems.
Have you ever? Let me ask you. Have you ever actually played golf in that golf shirt?
I have.
Oh, you have?
I have. Thank you for asking.
Oh, here's another one. Have you ever actually given an elevator pitch in an elevator?
Have I ever given an elevator pitch in an elevator? No, I've given an elevator pitch at the gas station, but I've never given one in an elevator.
Oh, really? You see?
Yeah.
They should call it a gas station pitch.
Yeah.
If you sold elevators and you gave an elevator pitch in an elevator,
that's right.
Would you explode, or what would happen then?
I don't know. I don't know what happens. I don't know what happens.
What is your elevator pitch, by the way? Why don't you tell us what you do, Crispin Cruz? Or if you'd like me to do it,
thank you for asking.
Okay.
Thank you for asking, Dan. Why don't you go ahead and tell them what we do?
It's all about preparation. What we do is we work with companies that want a self-functioning, highly profitable sales arm to their company that the owner doesn't have to be involved, because that raises the value of the business. Pretty good, huh?
Yep. Yeah. Is that something that you'd be interested in?
Yeah, that's good. You see, but it's the whole issue. So Cruzy, We're here. Have you ever been? We were talking about kind of old school sales, and because Jeff Sheehan here started his sales career in 1919. He's actually
No, it's 1920, Dan.
okay, yeah, 1920. He started right there, in the Roaring '20s, went through the Depression and came out, and this is what someone looks like when that happens to him. But you two also have an old school mentality about gathering new clients. And how do you go about doing that? Or tell us a story about
that's a great question.
some old school ways that you get new clients.
Well, sometimes the old way is the best way. And so I was listening to Jeff, and you listen to someone that's had that much experience in sales, and you realize that there are some traditional sales things that we do, and if we're not doing those consistently, then you're not going to see the results. And so, what are those? What are those things? Well, first of all, I love it when I read the article on LinkedIn that, prospecting or cold calling is dead. I love that because I just think that's I think it's awesome. Because I'm hoping that there's a ton of companies out there like us that really buy into that garbage and that actually are not prospecting and cold calling every day. Because if they are, then we're going to be, 5 or 6 steps ahead of them for sure. So I love that part of it. The other piece that you can't replace, you just can't replace, is work ethic. And I think work ethic is just so important. It's actually doing the behavior. Dan, we talk about that, and we talk about how important it is just every day to get out there and to actually perform the behaviors you need to perform to garner, new opportunities, new prospects, and new sales.
I love that.
I don't know if that helps you or not. But
I love that because that doesn't speak about the technology and necessarily the methodology. It's the mindset. No matter how no matter how you're driving the car, or no matter how you're doing that, you need to have that mentality first and foremost, and that skill really.
Well,
what Jeff has tapped into. Oh, I'm going to give you one more piece of credit here, Jeff, and then I'm going to let you run with it. What you have tapped into, Jeff, is there's more avenues now to be able to connect with our potential prospects, right?
Oh, with
social media, and with social media, with all these other things that are happening now in the social world. There are so many more avenues to be able to connect. But the basic foundational sales principles are the same. If you're not building good engagement, if you're not figuring out, the connection between you and your prospect quickly, right at the beginning of that sales event, if you're not figuring out whether or not there's really a compelling reason for your prospect to buy from you today, and they're not going to put you in a witness protection program, and they're not just kicking tires, and all of these things, right? I mean, all of these things that we do, we have to have a foundational sales process to make sure that we're managing, the process end to end in the right way. And the way that we do that, Jeff is a pro. He's got a sales process that he follows, I guarantee you, every single time. And the reason that he follows it is because he's come from the school of hard knocks, baby. I mean, he knows what he's done, and he knows the failures that he's had. And he knows the successes that he's had. And good salespeople try to replicate the successes, and they try and learn from the failures, right? I mean, that's it.
Yeah, one thing, you're absolutely right, Chris. Things have changed, but they haven't changed. The basics still apply in everything you do. We're here to talk about the future of sales and marketing. The fundamentals are still there, and you have to look at those. You have to have goals and objectives. You have to have that work ethic that you talk about. You have to have an introspective look at yourself. You have to have a plan. You have to do all these basic things. And more importantly, have your house in order. That going back to the 4 Ps of marketing: product, place, price, and promotion. Make sure that all of that is stellar before you do anything to go out there and start selling it. Because if those things aren't in order, you're going to fail. You can do whatever you want with regard to selling. And the other thing is, make sure you believe in the product. Make sure what you can go out there and sell it, because if you don't, you won't be successful. I know from experience. That's why I got out of the brokerage business. I did not believe in what they were doing, what they were selling, so I had to get out of Dodge. But these are the basics that, whether you're looking at the past or the future, they will still apply.
That is awesome.
That's right.
What? That's awesome stuff. Look at that. Right. And Chris Stone, you said that this show was going to stink. You're so wrong. That's the thing about you. You know, they don't know.
I deserve that. I deserve that. You know what?
That. You're right. It does go there. I remember there was a skit from the 2,000-year-old man. You remember the Mel Brooks and the 2,000-year-old man? And they asked him, call. You guys don't know this? Oh my gosh. Well, this is real. So it was Mel Brooks was 2,000 years old, and Carl Reiner asked him, so tell me, what's your secret? How were you able to live? When you talk about work ethic, it came to mind. How were you able to live for 2,000 years? And he said, it's very simple. Will to live. And he said, actually, he's Dr. Will to live. The man's a genius. Is when he said it was that was the terrible dad joke. But the point is, it's very simple. To succeed in the world and to succeed in sales, when you talk about basic things, it's as simple as talk to more people, engage with more people, and good stuff will happen. This was awesome, guys.
Yeah, talk to strangers.
Talk to strangers. Yeah, that's what you want to tell you. I used to tell that to my kids. They'd walk out and say,
right.
The two things
you never know what kind of
I would do opposite of what everybody else said. And so I people always say, okay, be careful. I never said be careful. And then they always say, don't talk to strangers. I say, listen, every friend I ever made first started as a stranger. So I say, so two things I say: go out there and take some chances today, and talk to strangers, and go on. By the way, they're both in jail. All right, listen.
One thing I'd like to emphasize, one more point I'd like to emphasize, though, is one of the fallacies, or one of the things I see wrong within this whole marketing social media arena right now. It's all about customer acquisition. And, cold calling is great and all part of the process, but take care of the customers you already have, because that's where the money is. That's where the profit is. It's much more expensive to do, customer acquisition is customer retention. So pay attention to that. Make that your first thing, particularly if you're a well-established company. If you're just starting out, then you need to hustle like crazy to get those new accounts and do whatever you can, whether it's in social media or cold calling, whatever. But once you have those accounts, take care of them. Do whatever you can to maximize the relationships with those people. It's a human-to-human world, and it will always be. This is the future of both sales and marketing. Keep those relationships going.
There's the future.
That's great. That's great advice, Jeff. Even though Dan's he doesn't care about what's going on at home. He's too busy out hunting, right? He's too busy to take care of his customers. Right. I kid.
I guess he disappeared.
I guess he didn't like that comment.
That's it.
So this was fantastic. Crispin, thank you. Jeff, if you can hear us, we can't see you, or you can see us. Thank you so much. Dan, there's Jeff. Thank you very much, Jeff, for being aboard. And Dan, we'll let you sign us off.
Yeah, but listen, remember, next week we're going to do this whole thing, but it's going to be in layman's terms. Make sure you show up.
That's right. All right. Are we good?
We're good.
We're not going to get you're the best.
Okay. You want a little sign off? Okay, look at it. Can you hear me? It's going to come. Listen, I appreciate you all listening today. This is big time. Far, this has been the best one ever. You know why? Because you're here watching it. And so if you're still with me after this whole time, that makes you extra special. So I have a special gift for you. Go to the Sales Energizer. Go send me an email and just mention your name and company. Subscribe to my podcast, thesalesenergizer.com, or the Sales Energizer podcast. I'll mention you and your name and your company name on the podcast. 50 countries, you'll be a rock star. So you're the best. I'm the Deej. Go get them today.